Good morning and welcome to the Symonds-Madison virtual Memorial Day ceremony. I'm Joy Symonds, and together with my husband Dan Symonds, we own Symonds-Madison Funeral Home in Elgin, Illinois. Here, we're very passionate about creating funerals that are as special and personal as the people they're honoring. We're also a military family. Dan has been serving in the Army Reserve for 18 years. We both come from families with a very long line of military service. Dan has traced his service as far back as his great-great-grandfather and namesake, Daniel Rufus Symonds, who served in the Civil War with the 20th Maine. Honor and respect for military service runs deep within us. That's why we refuse to let a global pandemic erase the significance of this day. We're gathered here today virtually to remember all of those veterans who sacrificed for our freedoms and are no longer with us. These heroes, to them we owe a debt of gratitude, one that we could never repay. And this is our small effort to recognize their sacrifices for us and everyone across our country. Today we remember, as a friend once told me, we don't know them all, but we owe them all. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on Facebook today. If you're watching the replay on Facebook or YouTube, thank you for taking a few moments to remember these heroes. It's the least they deserve. Now it is my pleasure to open our ceremony by introducing a fellow military family member and the pastor from Larkin Avenue Baptist Church, Richard Sanders, to begin our ceremony with an invocation.
Join me in prayer, please. Our Father, I thank you today for the great freedoms that we enjoy in our nation, freedoms that have been created in your heart and purchased with the blood, the sweat, the tears, the sacrifices of literally millions of men and women who have served in this nation's military. Father, today we are very mindful and we pay special tribute to those men and women who have given themselves the ultimate sacrifice in the purchase of our freedoms. Father, I pray, God, that you would help us to always remember the great sacrifices that have been made, that we might be a free people. There are some, yes, even some in our community, for whom the wounds are still very tender and very sensitive, having lost someone in a war. I pray, God, that your grace would reach out to them. I pray that we might, as citizens of this country, citizens of this state, be very diligent in making sure that our liberties are preserved. Father, it seems like we're just a generation away from losing some of the liberties that these men and these women have given their lives for so that we might enjoy. God bless the rest of this service. Be honored and glorified. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Sanders. 3 years after the Civil War ended, on May 5th, 1968, the head of an organization of Union veterans, the Grand Army of the Republic, established Decoration Day as a time for the nation to decorate the graves of the war dead with flowers. Major General John A. Logan declared that Decoration Day should be observed on May 30th. The first large observance held that year was at Arlington National Cemetery, across from the Potomac in Washington, D.C. By the end of the 19th century, Memorial Day ceremonies were being held on May 30th throughout the nation. In 1971, Memorial Day was declared a national holiday by an act of Congress, although it is still often called Decoration Day. The day is now observed on the last Monday in May. I would now like to introduce Jack McMahon, a senior at Harvest Christian Academy, to read Major Logan's original order creating Decoration Day.
The 30th of May, 1868 is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of the comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will in their own way arrange such fitting service and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized, comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind of fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and marines, who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic who made their breasts a barricade between our country and its foes? Their soldier lives were the reveille of freedom to a race in chains, and their deaths the tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that the consecrated wealth and taste of the nation can add to their adornment and security is but a fitting tribute to the memory of her slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism of avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten. As people, the cost of a free and undivided republic. If others' eyes grow dull, and others' hands slack, and others' hearts cold in solemn trust, ours shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remains in us. Let us then at the time appointed gather around their sacred remains and garland the passionless mounds above them with choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above the dear old flag they save from dishonor. Let us in solemn presence renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among us as sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude, the soldiers and sailors, widow and orphan. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope that it will be kept from year to year. While a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades, he earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lends friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country in time for simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective.
Thank you, Jack. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Tim Perry. Tim is a U.S. Air Force veteran and the founder of the nationwide Chaplains Veterans Fund. After a successful private sector career, he dedicated his life to serving police and fire professionals across the country, many of whom are military veterans. He has created innovative strategies to provide mental health and spiritual counsel, resiliency training programs, and spouse programs. If you attended our public funerals here at Symonds-Madison Funeral Home for unclaimed veterans John James Murphy and Ronald Olson, then you have heard the passion that Tim Perry exudes when he talks about remembering our veterans. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Joy. Always good to be with the Symonds family. And it's always great to hear Pastor Richard Sanders still at the pulpit. It's a good morning when you can hear his prayer and voice. Thank you for the young man at Harvest, Jack, for sharing us that read. There's so many things that have transcended into the generations from your read. And I think unknowingly, I've worked that into our short message. Part of my role in this life, especially to veterans, is to provide counsel, to help them from dark spots to lighter spots, to help them get through the life of where they've lived on the battlefields and how they're transferring it to present day life. I'm also a veteran of the United States Air Force, which I proudly remind Dan of because, of course, he's Army. I was in for about 8 years and saw some time in the Gulf War I. I come to you today as an ordained minister, a veteran, a counselor, but most importantly, I come to you today as a messenger, and a messenger that will help feed your mind and your heart and your soul. If I reflect back to President Franklin Roosevelt, who I just saw a special on last night about he and his wife, Eleanor, he said, "Those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them. Some of the faces who wore uniforms that defended our country were faces you have never known before, and some of the faces you certainly did. Amazing that someone who never knew us would fight for the freedoms to live and to live well in the United States of America. With hectic lives we lead today, it might be easy to think of Memorial Day as that 3-day weekend. I fear that many in America have forgotten and see Memorial just as a day off. When I was a child, there was not a house on the block that didn't have a flag out on the front of their buildings, front of their houses. Today, as I look down the row of the good people that live in our neighborhoods, I just don't see that as much anymore. We must be better to remember the small to gargantuan efforts that our Air Force fighting airmen, our always ready Marines, and everything and everywhere Army soldiers and courageous men and women of the sea, the United States Navy. They all fought to keep a bridge, to hold the hill, to hit their targets on time over target from the air. And they fought from the murky depths of below and the rough seas from above the water. For everyone who lives in this country, war is terrible, an amazing existence in our lives. War helps countries find their pride, recovers nations economically. It sends their sons and daughters into battle with hope of return. War brings illness to the mind. It creates danger to society. It makes politicians say we'll remember our dead and not really mean it. War promises disappointment through success. It promises joy by surrendering the tears of a loss by winning at war. War has created marriages, broken relationships. It has given innovative opportunities to create vaccines, weapons, save small villages, and destroy evil dictators, and of course, rise up the courageous leaders. When I went to Gulf War I, I remember leaving behind a mother and a father, my own family, and my daughter, who was barely walking. For a young lieutenant, flying across the world to fight a war wasn't just about winning. It was for the love of what I was leaving behind, what I was really fighting for, our country. Now, my daughter and her husband have brought a child into this world, and they know well they must teach this child about the importance of war and the nightmares of it, so that their child will understand thankfulness for an ultimate sacrifice. My daughter will not forget these days and other days that honor the airmen, soldiers, and sea men and women. My daughter understands her new role as a mother must be to tell about the sacrifice women and men took so that they could build a house, create a company, attend church, visit with friends openly and without persecution. They could create and innovate and experience joy in a free world. And for those of us that have never been to a country in captive, we will never truly understand how beautiful the moments are that we have free. My granddaughter understands, or will understand, when she hangs that flag in the morning light and retrieves it when the sun goes down. She is blessed to live in a country that was given to us by a loving God. even though that blood was shed to keep it. The blood that fell on the earth has long since gone from the jungles and the marshes, the deserts, the beaches, and the waters. It is us, the storytellers, that will keep the memories alive in our children that follow us. I remember once talking to a grade school class and using the word honor. And some young lad came up to me afterwards and said, "We don't use words like that." Honor. May sleeping in or grilling or washing the car or watching TV or dealing with a virus never act as an excuse for not reflecting on the ultimate sacrifice from the heroes that have fought and died for our every breath. When you tell a service person, "Thank you for your service," try asking them how they served and why they served. This will help you better understand how heavy this statement means to their hearts and our country. The term "your service" really means your mission. May you never live just an ordinary life. May we all live a life of mission. In the amazing movie Saving Private Ryan, there was a haunting statement given by Tom Hanks, who plays the captain, leading a mission to find James Francis Ryan. They need to inform him that all of his brothers had died in action, and he was to come home. With the captain's dying breath, he whispered in Ryan's ear, "Earn this, earn this." What did he mean by earn this? How could Private Ryan begin to earn anything in the midst of men and women dying so that he could return to America? How could he earn enough in this life to show his thankfulness? How could he earn anything that would be of value after this war? The answer was in Private Ryan's message at the grave of the captain some years later. "I hope at least in your eyes, I have earned what all of you have done for me." The earned part was about living a life that helped build a new world by raising a family, making an honest living, serving people, defending a nation, teaching our people about honor, and living a life of thankfulness. It's about understanding how God loves endlessly. This life that God has given us has provided the opportunity to celebrate humanity by identifying the problems of the world, by finding causes, by striving for answers, and sustaining those ideas to preserve life. To never stop earning and celebrating, to never stop giving praise to a loving God, to never lose hope. You see, as we counsel good men and women who struggle from life, hope is the one thing that faces them. And with everyone, you'll have to decide what you'll do with that or what you won't do with that. Hope has a face and a voice and a life in you. Hope doesn't just wave a flag without knowing why we wave it. Hope acts. Hope moves. Hope falls down and gets up. Hope lives in the actions of us every day and not just in fleeting thoughts. If the sacrifice was so great, someone explained to me why we only celebrate Memorial Day just one day a year. Celebrate hope every day by loving our country's veterans, just by talking to them about life. Nationwide Chaplains and the Symonds Funeral Home celebrate the lives of the unclaimed veterans when we intern them. In fact, Dan and Joy have created a special program called Operation Love Elgin, which provides help to veterans and their families. You get to be involved in the loving of them in their most critical time. Seek out how you can make a difference. Sometimes helping people that are not like you is challenging, and we can even talk ourselves out of helping veterans because they may be different. Many veterans are successful business professionals. Some are pastors, politicians, and teachers. And some veterans could use some help with just getting a job, feeding their families, giving them a ride to the hospital, maybe to get a prosthetic, maybe to get counsel. As I counsel first responders on challenges that are of their lives, many are suffering through PTSD, which I call the hell of war. Many people never know the painful prison of the mind that a post-traumatic injury can bring. The one voice that keeps repeating itself through the counsels, throughout the illness, is loneliness. As if they could say, oh, if you only knew the pain that I live through every day alone. Memorial Day wasn't just created to remember the past, but to give hope to those veterans in need today and tomorrow. For all that are in the earshot of my voice, wars will never leave us until we are called home by our Lord and Savior. So use this amazing day to create, build, sustain, partner, grow, tell, and above all, love. Use this day to build many more days to memorialize the faces we never knew. We never knew the ones that gave us the gift of hope, of celebration and breath. God sent his only begotten Son so that we would have everlasting life. There is not a veteran that has died or lived that hasn't thought of that in their last moments or while in their present moment. As all of us military men and women would say to you, to everyone, see your duty and do it. Take Memorial Day and make it live every day, and surely make sure all of our children know how to tell the story through the generations. So when we hang that flag, perhaps an emotion comes to our heart, a tear comes to our eye, and we say to those that have gone, those that are here, and those that in the future will shed blood, we are thankful. In God's precious name, amen.
Thank you, Tim, so much for those inspiring words. It's a nice reminder to hear that today is not just about the past, but it's about the future and what we can do for veterans in our community right now. I'm now honored to introduce an Elgin institution and former Army nurse, Miss Tricia Dieringer, to sing God Bless America. Please feel free to join along from your homes.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you, Tricia. It is now my honor to introduce the commander of Elgin's VFW Post 1307, Shawn Ayers, to say a few words in memory of our prisoners of war and those missing in action.
Good morning. I want to thank Joy for just letting me be here and be a part of this. And I wanted to take a moment to think about our brothers and sisters that we lost who didn't get to know what it was like to step off that plane and see their families. We hear lots of abbreviations in the military: KIA, POW, MIA. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit. When you're killed in action, a lot of times we're able to bring you home and honor you. And it's a great thing, and that's why this day is so important. But for people who are considered POW, prisoner of war, or MIA, which is missing in action, their family doesn't get that closure. They don't get that opportunity to really say goodbye to them. And I think it's really important that we take that time to honor them every chance we get, because they paid the ultimate price. They wrote a blank check up into their value of their life, and it was cashed, and they didn't get to come home. So it's our job to remember them for the sacrifice that they made and the sacrifice that their families made, because they're not just losing a son or daughter, they're giving them for the betterment of the rest of us. And it's our job to remember that. As far as moving forward in Memorial Day, I think we need to remember that we're not just remembering the ones that didn't come home, but there are people here that are fighting every day with, as Tim Perry said, kind of the hell of war with PTSD, and they're fighting for their lives every day. And here at home to health-related things from war and from suicide because of PTSD. We need to honor them and remember them, because it didn't just stop when they stepped off a plane coming home for them. And that's what Memorial Day is about, is remembering the people who have sacrificed and suffered and haven't been able to come back to that life that they had. So it's our job is, whether you're a civilian, prior service veteran, current active, anything, it doesn't matter. We all need to take the time to say thank you to those families who really gave so much so that we could have everything we have here at home today. And I just personally want to send a thank you out to any families that are watching that did have somebody who maybe didn't come home or didn't get to come home alive. I want to say thank you, because my family, which is obviously a military family, enjoys many freedoms for the sacrifices that came before me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Shawn. Next, I am excited to premiere a very special video. Our volunteers from Operation Love have shared personal reflections about Memorial Day and what it means to them, and we've put them together in a video for everyone here to enjoy. For those of you who aren't familiar, Operation Love is a network of volunteers that we launched right before this pandemic, who are dedicated to serving veterans right here in Elgin. Our group has a special emphasis on those veterans who have no family and need the support of their community. This group was grown out of the funeral for unclaimed veteran John James Murphy earlier this year, where a news article about that funeral went viral. And we were hoping to have just a few people, maybe some of his friends. We knew he didn't have any family attend his funeral, but we thought maybe some friends from the community would come. Well, we underestimated the love here in the Elgin community. Excuse me. And John James Murphy had about 600 friends show up to bid him goodbye. And in the conversations we had following that funeral, one question that came up over and over again was, why weren't we there for him before he passed away? And the answer to that question is Operation Love. Moving forward, when social restrictions are lifted, and we are through this global pandemic, we look forward to sending out an army of volunteers right here in Elgin to help veterans in need. We also plan to build up all of our veterans organizations here in Elgin and promote them and connect community members with the good work they're doing to serve our veterans right here in Elgin. If you would like to be part of Operation Love, please look up our Facebook group. On Facebook, the name of the group is Operation Love, Love Our Veterans Elgin. And there's a volunteer sign-up form in there where you can sign up for more opportunities to give your time and your talents to serve the veterans in need right here in Elgin. Without further delay, please enjoy this special video tribute from the members of Operation Love. Hello, I'm Joy Symonds from Symonds-Madison Funeral Home and a founder of Operation Love, a local volunteer group that is dedicated to veterans here in Elgin. The Love stands for Love Our Veterans Elgin. And welcome to our 2020 Memorial Day tribute video. This Memorial Day, I am remembering my grandfather, Harry Casmer. He served during World War II. He was stationed in the UK, and he took special pride in telling stories about the work he did there during the war. A major project that he was a part of involved waterproofing vehicles ahead of the D-Day invasion in Normandy. And he was very happy to have contributed to the success of that effort, even though he was not on the beaches that day. His brother, Herb, also served during World War II. And I have a couple pictures I wanted to share. This is my grandfather, as I remember him. But I also have this photo of him as a young man when he is in uniform for World War II. So this Memorial Day and every Memorial Day, I'm thankful for contributions from soldiers like him who took the time to serve and defend our freedoms so we can be free today. So please enjoy the rest of these tributes from our own community.
Hello, I'm Major Christina Rudolph of the 30th Military History Detachment in Honolulu, Hawaii. Memorial Day was first observed in the year 1866 in Waterloo, New York. Today I honor 5 of my family members who have proudly served our nation. First of all, I honor my dad, Ron Rudolph, who was a specialist in the Army stationed in Capertal, Germany. And I also honor my dad, number 2, C. Dale Hennington, who was a major in the Air Force, and he earned the Distinguished Flying Cross for his service in Vietnam. My Uncle Bob Lovelady, my great uncle actually, he served with the Navy in World War II, and he was in New Guinea. And finally, we're back to the Army, where I salute my cousins, Chris Lovelady, who he was a sergeant with the 82nd Airborne, as well as my cousin, who was also a sergeant, Dale Blackwell, Army as well. So for the 5 of you, I salute you and I miss you. Aloha.
My name is Al Hallett, and this morning I want to dedicate this video to my late brother, Albion Hallett. Albion was killed in the Battle of Normandy during World War II, June 4th, 1944. Albion was the leader. I believe he was a captain in the Army. He never asked anybody to do anything that he himself would not do. During the invasion on the beach, he received the fatal bullet that dispatched him into eternity. But I can tell you this, from everything I've heard about him, he would tell you he has no regrets. He was honored that he was able to live up to his oath to protect and preserve the Constitution and the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That he understood that when he took that oath, that he guaranteed it with his life. And he was proud to have paid that price. I wish, like I said, that I could have gotten to meet him. He would have been my big brother. There would have been 2 Al's in the family. I'm sure they would have called him Big Al and me Little Al, but I would have been proud to be Little Al. I can just imagine some of the things we would have done together. We probably would have went fishing, maybe bowling, maybe even hunting. Who knows, we might have even went camping together. I can imagine the jokes we would have told to each other. I imagine the kidding we would have given each other. I sure wished I could have met him. But I believe this. I believe that he is in heaven with the Lord, enjoying the peace of eternity and no looking back. And if he sees me, I hope he's proud of me for me to carry on the name Al. Albion, I love you, brother. You are my hero. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of what you did. And like so many like you, America, the world owes you a debt we can never repay. But I'm thankful you did what you did, and I'm here today able to pay tribute to you. Thank you so much for your service to us, your family, to your country, and to the world. Because of you and so many like you, we are still free. God bless you, and God bless America.
This is my brother, Sergeant Gary Lee Gillard. He was killed in Vietnam, May 15th, 1969. Memorial Day for me is a day to remember not only him, but all of the brave men and women who lost their lives while serving our country.
Hi, my name is Harry Mirisch. I am a Vietnam veteran, and in honor of Memorial Day 2020, I'm making this video. It's to honor and respect all that were killed during the wars to protect our freedoms. In particular, there are a couple of names of buddies of mine that are on the wall killed in Vietnam. The first is John Jones. John is on panel 28E, line 45. John and I were drafted at the same time, took basic training, and were in the same unit at Fort Hood, Texas before his deployment to Vietnam. The other is Gerald Cizurek. Gerald and I were in Vietnam at the same time, were promoted the same day. He's on panel 36W, line 38, and unfortunately for Gerald, he was killed his last week in country. Again, honor all those who have given their lives.
My name is Cindy Wallach, and I'm the Veteran Service Officer at Hanover Township. This Memorial Day, I'd like to pay respect and remember Bartlett's very own Sergeant Kevin Greco, killed in action in Afghanistan in 2008. Although I never met Kevin, I worked with his widow and mother of his two children, Rashmi Greco. Kevin showed his fearlessness. I held so much respect and the sacrifice he made for us. So this Memorial Day, I'd like to remember him, and I'd like to let his widow know she's one of the reasons I do what I do for a living. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sandy Zapancic.
And Brian.
I couldn't think of just one special veteran to do this for, so we're going to do it for all of them.
Memorial Day, I honor all those who've made the ultimate sacrifice. I thank their families for continuing their legacies. And I challenge all of us to remember and celebrate our heroes throughout the year. For they are the foundation upon which we stand.
My name is Kathleen. I have several veterans that are important in my life on a personal level. One was my uncle, Norman P. Crowd Jr., who served in World War II and Korea and served in 3 different branches of the military, spent 27 years in the Army. He's now gone. I knew a wonderful lady who lived in Berwyn named Mary Kirky, who was a WAC in World War II, got to go on one of the honor flights with her daughter. I miss her. But the one person I have a picture of is, let's do this. This is my late husband, Charles W. Benbow. He had already served and was gone before I met him. He served in Vietnam as a Army medic, and he had been home maybe 13 or 14 years when I met him in 1984. This was our wedding day, July 26, 1984. Very, very grateful that he and so many others have stepped up to serve our country. Okay, Chuck, you go over there. And I am grateful for all the men and the women that have served, that gave their lives for us, who came home and put up with so much where is it? There we go. So much ridicule, so much lack of gratitude, and especially the Vietnam vets. They were so underappreciated. Not that the war was necessarily right, but they did what they were supposed to do, and I'm grateful for everyone that has stepped up, and for our children and our children's children that will have the courage to step up and do what they can to keep us all safe. So on this Memorial Day, I pay tribute to all of you. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel Symonds. I'm the owner and proprietor of Symonds-Madison Funeral Home here in Elgin. And I'm also a 18-year veteran in the United States Army Reserve. I'm a first sergeant with the 372nd MPAD out of Nashville, Tennessee. Yes, I go down to Nashville, Tennessee. I told you I wouldn't be too long, but I have a quick story I want to tell about my Grandpa Daniel, my great-great-grandpa Daniel, who was in the Civil War. And I had the opportunity to move him from a pauper's grave in Forest Park to Fort Sheridan, where my dad and my brother John are. My brother John died in 2007, and then I was able to move Grandpa Daniel in 2011. I got permission from the Army to move him there, and I moved him and gave him military honors. And my dad, who died a little time after that in 2012, he goes to me, "Son, I've decided I'm going to wear my uniform when we reinterred Grandpa Daniel." And I said, "Okay, Dad." And he walks over and says, "Here it is, son." As he puts the jacket on, he goes, and they go, he can't quite get it on. So I go, Dad, don't worry. I will get you a set of greens. Don't worry about it. They were still issued at that time, and I was going to get him a set of greens. And so lo and behold, I did a surprise. I went and ordered him a set of dress blues. He had never, ever owned a set of dress blues. And he always wanted one, but he was too frugal to buy a set. And you could never justify owning a set. So I bought him a set of dress blues. And I had all his stuff sewn on and put everything together. And so I walk over when I got everything done, just before Grandpa Daniel's funeral, reinterment. I presented to him, and I unzipped it, and I showed him. And I said, "Here, Dad, here's your blues. I know you always wanted a set." And the man cried. And and I'm crying. I'm being all emotional because he got something that was important to him and to me that I got to give to him as a final gift. He died that following year in 2012. And we buried him in that uniform. He was so proud. He had this scruffy beard for like 30, 40 years, all my whole life, almost. He got out of the Army in 79, and he grew a beard. He never shaved it off until we buried Grandpa Daniel, and then we shaved it off because you're not allowed to have a beard in uniform. He shaved it off, and he kept it off, and then we wound up. I knew that at that point he wanted to be buried in his uniform, and that's what he did. And he got a full military honor detail. And I'm so proud of the National Guard guys, too, for being there for Grandpa Daniel and my dad and my brother John. And it's special. Memorial Day is very special in my heart because I have so many that served. Luckily, I haven't lost anyone in my family who in combat or anything like that, but I have lots of family members who served, and when they pass, it's important to honor them. It used to be called Decoration Day, and I'm glad that we still honor this, and this is one unfortunate way we have to do it virtually, but we're going to get it done. All right. Thank you. And thank you for letting me share my stories with you today.
Hi, I'm Angela Flintz, and I'm with Assisting Hands Home Care. We are a home care provider in the Elgin community, but we specialize in caring for veterans. I'm very proud to be a member of Operation Love. And when I think about Memorial Day, what I think about is all the sacrifices that these veterans have given. Their lives, their families that have given up so much to have their loved ones be overseas at war. One of the biggest things that I love the most about being a veteran home care provider is that we've gotten to meet so many amazing veterans and their families and getting to learn actual history about them, what they were like when they were younger during their service time, all the different branches of military. We have had so many amazing veterans that we've been able to care for. And it's just been a huge pleasure. What I'm so thankful for is being able to provide care and give back to those veterans that gave to us and providing our freedom.
As so many of them men were dispatched so quickly to eternity, not a one of them would ever say what they did was for nothing. They would say with pride, and definitely Albion would be one of them, that their life given for freedom was a price they were more than willing to pay. They were glad they got to pay, and they saw the end result. Because of men like Albion, they defeated the Axis powers, and they changed the course of the world. They said, from now on, we'd look for peace. We would try to avoid war. And America has lived up to that standard for the most part, thanks to men like Albion.
We would appreciate your attention as we lay a wreath, 2 wreaths actually, at the base of the Symonds-Madison Funeral Home Veterans Memorial. Following the laying of our wreaths, we are honored to have Lieutenant Colonel Chip Gross playing taps in memory of all of those who have gone before us. Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our virtual Memorial Day ceremony. If you would like to hear more about events like this and future volunteer opportunities to serve Elgin's own veterans, please join the Operation Love Facebook group and also join our email list. If you're not already on our email list, you can join by text message. Just text the word Symonds, Symonds, to the number 22828. Again, you can join our Operation Love email list by texting the word Symonds, Symonds, ONDS to the number 22828. On behalf of Dan and myself and all of our volunteers today who gave us their time and talents for this remembrance ceremony, thank you. We hope you found it to be a meaningful tribute to all of those who've sacrificed for our freedoms. Thank you for joining us.